Across the pond, we travel for a series of races. I am excited to say that Roush Performance Esports is trotting around Europe for a second time. Time to embark on the World Tour 2. It was just a few weeks ago that we were playing in the dirt at Charlotte, and now we have to refine ourselves for some tea and road racing in the UK. Silverstone is stop number 1 of the World Tour, and we are in the GT3 cars for the whole dang thing. It's been a little while since Roush Performance Esports has gone road racing. Feels nice to be back at home with some racing that we are a little bit more familiar with. The format tonight will provide us with some non-stop action, so let's get started right here on Roush Performance Esports with the World Tour 2. Joining me in the booth tonight is the one and only Jack Roush Jr., and we have Ryan Bauer behind the scenes working the controls. And he's making our broadcast look top-notch, and I think we also have JP in the background that's going to be joining us as well. And Jack, I'm happy to be bringing road racing back here to the channel. Are you ready for the action tonight? Well, Jack, looks like you got to push the button there.
Anyway, a little technical difficulty. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm excited for this. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm jealous. It'd be fun to be in the car.
It's tons of fun in those GT3 cars. And why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown of the schedule, the 3 stops that we're going to be visiting?
So like you said, tonight is Silverstone, October 18th. On November 1st, we go to Motorland Aragon. And November 15th, we go to Imola.
Just a quick jaunt through 3 different countries over there. It's pretty exciting to do this. Way back a couple years ago, we did the World Tour, the first one, and kind of exciting to bring it back. We were in the older cars back then, but we're in the GT3 stuff now. And like we mentioned, Silverstone, the Grand Prix layout is stop number 1, just a couple hours northwest of London. You find the home of the British Grand Prix since 1987, really the home of Formula One racing. 3.19 miles in length, 18 turns, and this is the most updated version. So we start off with turn number 1, Abbey. It's a fast-flowing right-hander. There's a couple sections to really watch out here at Silverstone. Primarily that 3-4-5 complex. Watch out for cars trying to little sneak moves on the inside. Down the Wellington Straight, another possible area of passing is Brooklands down there, turn number 6. And then it really goes out onto what is called the old Silverstone circuit, down Woodcote into turn number 9, Copse, and then through one of the fastest sections in race cars, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, and out onto the Hangar Straight. No matter where you go here at Silverstone, it is bound to be action-packed every single corner. And to get talking about what we are going to see here tonight, the cars right now are in qualifying. It's a 10-minute session, 3 laps count there in qualifying. It sets the grid for our sprint race. We are going to have 2 different races tonight. The sprint race, 15 minutes long. The results from that will set the grid for our feature race. The feature race is 30 minutes. The big-time curveball in that feature race, the top 8 will be inverted. So if you won that sprint race, you're going to be starting 8th in the feature. If you finished 8th in that sprint, you're going to be on pole position for that feature race. It's always a nice little curveball that's going to be thrown in there. And I mentioned we're in the GT3 cars. Well, check out the diversity that we have here. 8 different cars available to you. Come and race in. So if you are all out there kind of wondering, hey, should I come and race these things? You got Audi, BMW, Ferrari, probably the fan favorite over here, the Ford, the Lamborghini, McLaren, Mercedes, Porsche. It doesn't matter what your flavor is. They've got something for you. So if you want to come and race with us here on the World Tour 2, you got all these different options of cars. Sign up is still open. So come and join us right here on Roush Performance Esports. Also, none of this would be possible without our partners. Want to make a mention of VRS. The VRS team strives to enhance the realism and immersion of sim racing. That is why VRS provides the ultimate sim racing experience by offering top-tier hardware an exceptional learning academy, and new events that cater to both aspiring and professional sim racers. What started as a passion of enthusiastic sim racers has become a movement. Don't miss out and join VRS today. Go visit vrs.racing and check out everything that there is that they offer. Well, Jack, I want to bring you back in here because we do have the cars out there, and qualifying is the best of 3 laps, and we've got about half the field that has set the grid. And check this out, riding on board with one of these old Porsches, and this thing looks pretty familiar. I know that we haven't raced it per se, but it's got the blue oval on it.
Yep, Ford GT, one of my favorites.
And this is David Levine. Jack, does that name ring a bell? Because if you remember, David was actually racing the old Boss 302s against us in the Grand Am series way back about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember his trailer, actually.
Yeah, it's awesome to see David out there as he's putting in another lap. Let's see exactly where David Levine is. This is coming through that 3, 4, 5 section here at Silverstone, and you notice still got 3 minutes of qualifying left. Driving that number 59 car. He's currently sitting P12 on the board, and I love this. So hopefully we get to talk to Chris Papa at the end of this one. Jack, check out his point of view camera. He has got a webcam sitting on his baseball hat looking at his sim. So we are getting a picture of physically inside of his sim rig.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. It really looks like you're sitting there in the car.
Always about the different immersion levels out there. Chris is in one of the Audi cars. Mentioned the 8 different cars out there. Currently we have a Porsche on pole. Chris Walsh in the number 104. A Ferrari sitting second place with Cam Peterson. And then we also have Porsches 3 and 4 out there. So pretty interesting to see the different mix. And I love all of the different competitors out there. So we were just highlighting the triples with Chris Papa. This is Cam Peterson, and if you remember Cam Peterson, Jack, he dominated our Dirt Series for so long. He's using a virtual reality setup.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's interesting to see, how things stack up. Not only, I think between the monitor setups, people have their different preferences. I've tried VR myself, and I struggle with that. I prefer a real monitor, but, it works really well for other people.
I think the biggest difference is once you get used to it, you have to kind of be in the feel for VR, because you're right, if you just kind of strap it on and go, it's not quite the immersion level. You still have to kind of get used to your head moving around, but nothing else moving around. So yeah. I know that these off-road guys, specifically Josh and Cam, their stuff is really beneficial because the majority of racing that they do is that off-road where there's so much yaw angle, there's so much sliding going on in the car, so you can really look over, look left, look right, or look up and wave to you way up there, Jack, on the screen, and that's what the benefit of VR is.
Right. Yeah, looks like, what's that model? Is that the Pi VR?
Yeah, that was the Pimax Crystal that Josh and Cam were rocking.
That's a great VR headset. I've heard that one can run 8K resolution through the lenses of the headset.
It is a pretty awesome headset, and I know, JP, if you got any questions on that, I'm pretty sure that Cam and Josh can definitely help you out. They are hooked up with Pimax over there. They really help them out with the charge and iRacing and everything that they can do, and we're also getting some shots there from Paul Slavonic, one of our oldest competitors, not oldest in terms of age, but goes all the way back to the mini series when we really debuted this esports championship. And with that, the time is clicking up. It is a solo qualifying run, so 10 minutes, that is it. You cannot continue on any longer. We have our official grid set. It is Chris Walsh in the number 104 Porsche. He is going to be your pole sitter tonight. Cam Peterson is going to be lined up on the front row alongside of him in the number 48 car, second place. Christopher Pies is going to be starting in the third place position in the number 453. Next to him is going to be Sean Winkler, lined up fourth. Then we have Stacy Bertrand in the number 88 is going to be lined up in the 5th place position. Josh Edmondson next to Stacy in 6th, occupying row number 3. Then we have Kyle Gretsch in 7th. Joe Nagy is going to be lined up 8th. Sean Fritz here in 9th place. And Michael De La Sala in 10th, Jack.
Yep, absolutely. In 11th, we have Timothy George. In 12th, David Levine. 13th, S. Ipkiss. In 14th, we have Stephen Baker. That's a familiar name. In 15th, we have Corey Vervinkt. I almost had it. 16th, we have Oliver Turin. In 17th, another familiar name here, Trenton McMillian. He's been around forever. I think he started back in the mini-series days as well. In 18th, we have Elizer Campos. We know him as Peachy. 19th, Chris Papa. And 20th, Dave Shutt.
And then we have 2 more cars that are going to be lined up. Paul Slavonic and Ben Harcum. 22 GT3 cars taking the grid here at Silverstone today. And nice, cool afternoon, 69-degree ambient air temperature. The track is also nice and cool, 71 degrees. So that means the lap times are going to be really, really fast. A little bit windy, 13 miles an hour worth of wind. And to talk about wind, Jack, because we have the shortened pace lap, they don't blow around the GT cars as much, but 15 miles an hour of wind, that's quite a bit.
Oh yeah, that's definitely significant.
Well, I mentioned we've got the shortened pace lap, so we started on that hangar straight back there. Gonna go around the final chicane through turns 16, 17, and then through the final bend of 18. The grid is supposed to stay nice and tight at pace car speed. Chris Walsh leading the field around, and it looks like we've got a green flag on the racetrack. Cam Peterson on the outside gets a really nice jump in that Ferrari. Chris Walsh is going to have to concede. Can Cam keep it on the racetrack? It looks like he is going to be able to. Oh no, looks like maybe one of the McLaren spun around in the background, but it will be Christopher Walsh up front, sneaking around the Ferrari of Cam Peterson. And look out, here also comes another car. Oh wait, Cam actually lost it there in turn 3 and 4. Chris Walsh was able to put the power down in the Porsche. He's trying to run away from it all.
You know, this really reminds me of iRacing, Joey, back in the day in IMSA. You get all these mixes of different makes, and it's going to be really interesting tonight to see how this shakes out with the current BOP.
Every car has its strengths and its weaknesses, and some of them might be a little bit faster on the top end. Some of them might be faster through the medium speed or the downforce corner. So you're right. It's a little bit of a mix of everything out there. And I think one of the cool parts about Silverstone, this specific circuit, it's a very high-speed circuit, and even in these GT cars, there's quite a bit of grip out there for you to go and get, and you have to be very aggressive, especially into this section right through here, Maggots, Beckett's, and then out of that final corner here and out onto this hangar straightaway, going out onto the greatest top speed section of this racetrack, Jack. And you mentioned the diversity. It's Porsche, Ferrari, Porsche, Porsche, Porsche. It seems like that German make is pretty strong right now.
Yeah, well, that's a key phrase right there. They're strong right now. We'll have to see how, each of these vehicles do for tire wear, and, some will become more twitchy than others.
Yeah. I feel like the Porsche's main strength is going around tight corners really well, because it has a very equal center of gravity. Although, most of the weight is at the back because the engine's behind the rear axle. It balances the weight really well, which allows it to, corner really tightly. And although it's not as fast in a straight line as, the other cars like, the Ferraris and the Ford GTs and, the Lamborghinis, they launch really good and have really good acceleration, which allows for really good corner exits. Same with the Audi because it has the same engine as the Lamborghini. So, you know, there's a lot of variety with how these cars drive from what I can perceive.
I love the technical stuff coming out of your mouth and out of your brain, JP, because that's what I love to hear and to talk about that, because I know that you had a very successful go-kart year this year. The three drivers up front right now, Chris Walsh, Cam Peterson, Chris Pies, well, guess what? They all have real-world racing experience. So just like what you're talking about, the difference in cars, well, Chris Walsh, he races in SCCA World Challenge. I shouldn't say SCCA World Challenge. That's an old name. SRO World Challenge out there. So he races a variety of cars. Cam Peterson is a real-world dirt racer as well as an iRacing champion. Chris Pies also races Porsches down there in the WRL series down in Texas. So these three drivers at the front of the field, they all have real-world racing experience. Maybe someday, JP, out of that go-kart and into one of those big cars.
Maybe next year or the year after. In the next 2 years, we plan on maybe having me in a full-size race car and practicing in one at the very least. Hopefully.
That right there is the attitude you need to have. And we were just getting some shots on board with Chris Pies. That is our third place runner. And I tell you what, you get talking even for just a minute here, Jack. Check this out. We're already at 10.5 minutes remaining. This sprint race, already a third of the way through. You can kind of talk to us about that. Like, what's the mentality when you only have probably 7 laps or 8 laps in a race? It is a totally different switch you have to flip versus going out there and just getting into a rhythm and settling down.
Oh yeah, it's a very different mentality. You know, go to the extreme of a much longer race, like a four-hour race, and you know what you're thinking about at the beginning is very different than these sprint races. You know, with the longer races, you have to go out, survive, be fast, let the tires survive as well. But with these sprint races, you cannot afford that. You got to go out there and go right now and get the job done.
Look at this gaggle of cars back here. This is some fight. I think this is about 5 to 7 cars all battling it out for what is kind of like the 12th, 13th place position. Chris Papa is involved in this back here. I think Oliver Tren, Sean Fritz, Tim George, Trent McMillian. If you come here and race in Roush Performance Esports, it doesn't matter if you're at the front, it doesn't matter if you're at the back. There is always some good, hard racing out here. And I think one of the fun parts is we get a lot of return names. We mentioned it earlier on the grid. Paul Slavonic, Trent McMillian, Cam Peterson. Jack, these are all names that show up on a returning basis, so you kind of get that camaraderie of knowing who you're racing with.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. You know, Joey, we started this whole esports thing in early 2020 during the pandemic when this was the only motorsports we had, and it is really cool to see a lot of the guys that we started this with still with us today, including
Paul Slavonic. Now, we are highlighting him. We're just clicking about halfway through this race. He is currently our biggest mover in the number 528. He's also toasting some marshmallows, maybe get the wieners out, get some hot dogs out. JP, are you a fan of hot dogs? Because if you hang them off the back end of this McLaren, check out the flames coming out of the back of this thing. It'll get roasty toasty.
Yeah, that twin turbo V8 out of that 12C can really cook.
Yeah, we might want to check his fuel after the race. I don't know if that's legal.
Yeah, got to make sure that, you know, there isn't too much backfire. There might be an engine failure.
It's cool. I think Paul is actually in the only McLaren. I'm going down through the list, and yes, I see he is in the only McLaren out there. So pretty cool to see lots of Ferraris, lots of Porsches, but that is the only barbecue machine on the racetrack. Go over to Joe Nagy right here. He's got a front row seat with Trent McMillian getting passed by Michael De La Sala on the racetrack. That is one of the Fords down the inside of Trent McMillian. He's trying to take the fight back to Michael De La Sala, but it really is that Ferrari able to put the power down coming out of that final corner. And I'm sorry, that's not the final corner. This is heading out into turn number 9 into Copse. So this is going to be into a really, really fast, high-speed section. Jack, these cars don't get really pushed around in terms of dirty air, but you can't follow as close as you want to through these high-speed sections.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once you lose that air on the splitter, you will know it. They'll feel the car start to push. You know, someone right up behind you can take the air pressure off of your rear wing as well and make you lose. You know, it's just something, you know, with these cars you really got to think about.
Right on board with some of these shots from Corey Vervinkt. He's getting some pressure from Stacy Bertrand. Now, Stacy is another driver with some real-world experience, and Corey is our resident iRacer out there. So if we have any complaints, Jack, we complain straight to Corey. He can probably take care of all of our issues out there. Well, 6.5 minutes remaining. It has been the story of Chris Walsh out front. Cam Peterson has given chase, but Christopher Pies is actually starting to hunt down the back of Cam Peterson for that second place. Josh Edmondson on the back of Sean Winkler as well, and then David Schutt and Paul Slavonic slowly catching that battle for what is the 5th place position. And I think that's probably what it'll come down to be, is this little accordion right here of David Schutt getting onto the back of Paul Slavonic, and these two have raced together plenty over in other series. Jack, how do you feel if you were a team owner and your car was getting so close to that flame out the back end of the McLaren? Would you be worried about delivery coming off of the front end of that Ferrari?
Oh yeah, those are some pretty serious flames. I believe it or not, I don't recall seeing it in IMSA in the US, but I did get the chance to race at Brands Hatch in England a few years ago, and I saw a McLaren that was shooting flames just like that.
It was pretty cool. You got to go over and race British GT over there at that event at Brands Hatch. And if I remember correctly, you brought home some hardware as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we won our class. Or is that right? Gosh, I can't remember.
Well, you know, you got so many trophies in that cabinet over there, you probably have to go check, huh?
Yeah, you got me with the pop quiz there. Come to think of it, we did podium. We got 3rd, I believe.
Riding on board here, Sean Winkler. Now, this car is the Rexy-themed car, an IMSA tribute car. He has got Josh Edmondson in close chase. Right behind Josh is Paul Slavonic, and then right behind Paul is David Schutt. So this was that accordion battle that I was talking about. Kind of the fastest car is the caboose on the train, and it's actually Schutt that's going to get a really good run out on Paul Slavonic coming out of that turn number 5 complex just behind this. But the power of that McLaren is able to keep the Ferrari at an arm's length distance. So with 4 minutes here remaining, a little bit of late move there. Actually, we got simultaneous triple spins between Winkler, Slavonic, and Schutt. It's going to be the Lamborghini of Kyle Gretsch coming through, trying to take advantage. And holy smokes, Jack, talk about it all unfolding there in just a matter of 1 corner between all 4 of those cars.
Oh yeah, I was trying to figure out if they had contact or if they just all were pushing it hard at the same moment.
So this was the front group. I believe the green Porsche spins by himself. Yep, just gets a little bit loose, and then you see the 2 cars here behind that also spun. Now that one was due to a little bit of contact. I mentioned that McLaren has got some straight line speed. Well, David Schutt really threw it up the inside and didn't quite get up alongside Paul Slavonic. Here's that view of that late move, and unfortunately just got into the back of the McLaren, and this is riding on board that Lamborghini, Kyle Gretsch. Whew. Talk about some fast hands to avoid that one.
Yeah, these guys are going for it right now.
And what I think is pretty amusing here too is they all just spun, and here they are. They all got going at the same time, so the battle really hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
still Paul Slavonic hanging on to the 5th place. Kyle Gretsch was the one who took advantage of that, so he's kind of the one in the middle here now. And then you've got David Schutt in that aggressive Ferrari giving chase behind that. And actually, Corey Vervinkt and Stacy Bertrand, they're still having their battle as well, but with 2.5 minutes remaining, I am checking on our leader. So where these cars are right now, they're going to have to go by start-finish one more time as you see David Schutt sneak up the inside of that Lamborghini. So this is still two of our biggest movers despite having that poor spin right there. Slavonic up 16, Jack.
That's quite a run. He's definitely going to get the Hard Charger award for this event.
Speaking of the Hard Charger, okay, David Schutt right behind him, he's up 14. So if Schutt gets around Slavonic, they're both up 15 spots. Pretty amusing. And remember, after this, we still have that full top 8 grid invert to start the main feature 30-minute race. So have to see how it all calms down or doesn't calm down out there on Silverstone. Go through Maggots and Beckett's one more time. This black and yellow Ferrari of David Schutt all over the back of the McLaren. Now he's tucked up underneath the rear wing, but we've really seen the McLaren stretch out its legs down the straightaway. Look at the top end of that speed. It forces David Schutt to try to be really, really aggressive on the brakes and make up the speed in other areas. You were mentioning the BOP, just the diversity of the cars. Jack, that's what you get when you have two different makes. One car is fast in one section, another car in another area.
Oh. Looks like we had a little bit of contact there.
Yeah, with Dave Schutt and Paul Slavonic. It looks like Dave Schutt took the most of that impact, and he fell down to 8th place. And Slavonic also lost a place. So looks like that battle got split up quite a bit. That was one heck of a battle, I gotta say.
And I will give a tip of the cap. We're watching our leader right here because he has taken the white flag. 1 lap to go for Chris Walsh. But respect to David Schutt. I know that he took out Paul Slavonic, and they probably both had their hands in the air like, hey, what was that? You know, what are you doing out there? But David Schutt pulled over on the side of the racetrack, did not pass Paul Slavonic, said, hey, that was my fault. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to give the position back. And so that way, hopefully, that relationship can survive another race, because we do still have 30 minutes that they're going to have to be together out on the track together. And this is our leader. Jack, check this out. He not only has led every single lap, but he also currently has the fastest lap of the race. 2.8 seconds over position number 2. Chris Walsh has been pretty dominant so far.
Yeah, really impressive run. You know, he's obviously knows this car very well as the track. Yeah, we'll see how things shake out in the next race.
Coming through the final series of corners here, down into what is the final chicane, turn 16, 17, 18. Chris Walsh, all he's got to do is hit his marks down here, and he will advance as a winner on the sprint race. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Chris Walsh with the flash of the lights, your first winner here at Silverstone for the Roush Performance Esports World Tour 2. Cam Peterson will finish in second place. Chris Pies is going to be rounding out that podium. Josh Edmondson, then I do see Paul Slavonic, even though he slipped down just a little bit, will finish in the 6th place position. We're going to get the shots as all of these cars come across the start-finish line, and we will get your official results on the screen as we have 21 cars take this checkered flag. And before we get those results on the screen, Jack, what did you think about the first race?
It was cool. You know, this is one track I've never been to, but I've always enjoyed watching races here. It kind of reminds me of Sebring, not, you know, partly given the history of it, but even just the layout reminds me quite a bit of that. You know, it's when we started the World Tour, we really did this to showcase tracks from around the world, tracks that our audience may not be as familiar with. And all of the tracks that we're going to in this world tour are ones that were not part of the last one. They're completely new for our esports, and really impressed with this crowd. They're racing great out there. You know, you see the good sportsmanship that we just talked about. You know, I couldn't be more thankful to have this great group of drivers racing with us tonight.
And then we have our results. Chris Walsh taking home the first win, and then you see the remainder here, 11th through 20th. Pretty much everybody on that lead lap out there, and 21 cars that did finish. What we're going to do is take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because we're going to be right back in less than 3 minutes with your 30-minute main feature race.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
If you want to join us here on the Roush Performance Esports World Tour 2, go join iRacing, get online, sign up for our league, join us on Discord, and you too can come be a part of the action. You got to remember, everything here on Roush Performance Esports is free to enter. No dollars involved, and you might actually walk home with some pretty cool stuff at the end of some of these races. And we're going to try to bring in one of our drivers here into the interview room. We got Kyle Gretsch going to be joining us here live in the broadcast booth. Kyle, you got me?
I do got you.
Kyle, so it looked like you had your hands full avoiding a spinning McLaren, a spinning Porsche, as well as, I believe, another Ferrari in there. What was that like to come up on in the middle of the race?
Oh, just typical pubby lobby things that you get experience with. But yeah, that was really scary. I clipped, I think I clipped the Rexy Porsche when I was going by, and I got a 4X, and I was checking out on the straightaway to see if I had any straightaway damage, but it seemed like I got clear on that front.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're in the Lamborghini out there, yes?
I am. Only car I got.
What? Okay, so that is the reason why you're in the Lamborghini. I was going to ask you, what draws you to the Lamborghini versus the other GT3 cars?
Same reason why I have the Cadillac. Happy noises.
Well, you know what? That is part of having a race car, is you got to look cool, and it does have to sound good, doesn't it?
Yes, also I did lie. I do have the Mercedes, but I don't have a paint scheme for it.
Well, Kyle, good luck out there in the main race. You provided us some good onboard shots there in the feature. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, that was Kyle Gretsch, driver of one of the only Lamborghinis in today's field. And Jack, we do have a little bit of time here before our main feature race. And actually, you know what? No, Jack, I think we had a seat substitution. JP, you here with us?
He is not at the moment. He will be back.
Okay. All right. So before we get to the official grid, one of the cool things about the feature race here is that we have a top 8 grid invert. So that winner, Chris Walsh, she's going to be starting back there in 8th place. A little bit of a different mindset from starting out front in clean air. If it were you, remember, the race is double in length. Are you more aggressive at the start to try to get that track position, or are you a little bit more patient?
That's such a tough thing to try to anticipate. I think you know what it's like, Joey. For me, I'm just, before a race like this, I'm just trying to clear my head and get ready for anything that is going to be thrown at me. I could be super aggressive if there's the opportunity, but you don't want to crash on lap one.
And the other thing is, we got to remember some of those really fast cars that we saw, like Paul Slavonic, David Schutt, that were catching their way up through the field. Well, they're actually going to be starting in a more advantageous position, going to be starting up towards the front. So with those faster cars, they might be able to scoot away a little bit further than maybe Chris Walsh or Cam Peterson wants them to at the beginning of the race. A little bit more of a challenge for them to go and hunt everybody down. And I think our warm-up period has officially ended, so we do have our starting grid. David Schutt will be your pole sitter. Watch out, because he is incredibly fast. Stacy Bertrand is going to be lined up on row number 1. Paul Slavonic in that roasty toasty McLaren lined up in the third place. Kyle Gretsch in fourth. Josh Edmondson fifth. Christopher Pies is going to be lined up sixth. Cam Peterson in seventh. And then you have our sprint race winner lined up in eighth place. That is Chris Walsh. Sean Winkler in ninth. David Levine in 10th. Jack?
In 11th, we have Corey Vervinkt. 12th, we have Oliver Duran. 13th, Michael Della Sala. 14th, Joe Nagy. 15th, John Fritz. 16th, Stephen Baker. And in 17th, we have S. Ipkiss. In 18th, we have Trenton McMillian. In 19th, we have Ichi Campos, also known as Elizer Campus. 20th, we have Chris Papa. 21st, Timothy George. And 22nd, Ben Harcum.
Well, we've already got the cars rolling out on the shortened, abbreviated pace lap. You see the Mustang diving off down onto pit road. It's all going to be the black and yellow Ferrari of David Schutt coming through turns 16, 17, 18. Feeds the field out onto the front straightaway. Wait nice and tidy for this green flag. And we are racing once again, and Chris Walsh actually gets a little bit bottled up. He's going to be way on the outside of the racetrack, and we're 4 wide, a little bit further back in the pack. This is busy here at Silverstone. Turn 1, it looks like for the most part, everybody makes it through. I see a BMW getting collected in the background a little bit there, but it is David Schutt leading the way over Stacy Bertrand. I'm sorry, that's Josh Edmondson that snuck into the second place position. He's got his teammate Cameron Peterson there in the third place, and now it's Stacy Bertrand that slid back into fourth. Jack, a little bit of a mouthful, but now it's kind of settled out just a tad.
Oh yeah, that first corner, I'm pretty sure I saw more than one car go past with the wrong part of the car going forward. So yeah, things have definitely settled down here. I think we're going to see some chaos, though, for the next few laps as this inverted field settles out.
Yes, and I'm looking through the field here, trying to spot some of our regulars, and it is just a little bit of a mess trying to find everybody, but it's Schutt escaping out from Josh Edmondson, Cam Peterson. Now, those two drivers, they are very familiar with each other. They're pretty much teammates over there in the dirt world, and they've got their work cut out for them. Try to catch a road racer like David Schutt out there in the Ferrari. Very nice drive from Stacy Bertrand in the number 88. Chris Walsh, our first race winner, is in that 5th place position right now. So also some work cut out for him as they go down the hangar straight for the first time into the Stowe corner. A fast sweeping right-hander, and can kind of take a breath now, Jack. 15 minutes was the first one. 30 minutes is this main feature race, so everything's still coming up to temperature, and this is a big train of GT3 cars that's forming.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting part of the race right now. It does appear that things have settled down, although I think, we still got a lot of race left. People are probably trying to get their rhythm right now, but My guess is that's not going to be settled for too much longer. And as I say that, I'm starting to see cars go side by side. So, yeah, this is not going to calm down.
That was Chris Walsh making his way past the number 88 there. Kind of Porsche, and then Lamborghini. And I think the next up on that list is going to be Chris Pies trying to make his way around Stacy Bertrand on the racetrack. But Chris Walsh now faces 2 Ferraris. Actually, I shouldn't say 2 Ferraris. He's got 3 prancing horses directly in front of him. And actually, check out Chris Pies right now. He's side by side with Stacy Bertrand coming out of Low and Woodcote there. Now approaching turn number 9, known as Cops. Jack, this is one of the fastest areas in any track whatsoever. I think the closest we have to it is probably Road America, the kink through some of the sections here.
Yeah, and what you'll see in parts of a track like this, you know, you'll see some of the cars that have the advantage with horsepower. You know, I'm thinking probably more like, you know, Paul Slavonic's McLaren. You know, you may see him be able to pass in a section like that. You know, it all plays out to that BOP that we talked about earlier.
There is Paul Slavonic in his McLaren, and unfortunately, he had a little bit of a poor start. He has fell back quite a few positions out there. Our biggest mover is Chris Papa. Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like... sorry, Paul. You did not fall. You started in the pits there on that one. So thank you, Ryan Bauer, our producer in our ear, feeding me the right information so that way I can put my own foot in my mouth over here. Well, Chris Papa has got his hands full, as well as Corey Vervink. Oh no, this is Chris Pies getting into the back of Stacy Bertrand. See the reaction from Chris, a little bit disappointed on that one. I know that this battle was developing for the last couple laps here, and I wonder if it was Pies that maybe got a little bit too aggressive, or maybe it was Stacy just kind of closing the door a little bit late, but didn't quite get the full picture on that one, Jack. And you know there's always 2 sides to the story here.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I haven't seen all the angles here either, but yeah, racing is tough. You know, everybody's going to go for it. You know, it's really hard for me to judge that one. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
See here, so it looks like Pies is going to go to the inside.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have to put that one on Chris Pies. You know, he was predicting to try to go over under. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. You know, that door never opened there like he envisioned. And I don't think it was malicious by any means. He was just trying to set up a pass. And unfortunately, it was very well defended. And both cars ended up being spun around. And check this out. Chris Walsh, I mentioned he had to start back there in that 8th place position. Well, lots of real-world racing experience. SRO, real-world competitor out there in World Challenge, got plenty of laps. I'm not sure about across the pond, but he is all over the back of Josh Edmondson. Jack, this is the fight for 2nd place.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is going to be exciting here.
See Josh Edmondson. This is pretty cool to see. Now, Josh and Cam in these 2 black Ferraris that are sandwiching the disco flashing headlight Porsche, they come from the off-road world. Now, Josh was actually just racing in our Rallycross event a few weeks ago, and Cam is a previous Roush esports champion himself in our off-road series. And so these competitors, these drivers right here, while they are incredibly experienced on iRacing, maybe not so much on road racing. It's kind of what we called Cam Peterson back in the day, fish out of dirt. That was his nickname that we gave him, Jack.
Yeah, it's one of the things in racing where, you know, these different disciplines, off-road, rally, road racing, NASCAR, they require a very different skill set. And for these guys to be so fast across multiple, it's very impressive.
Jump back on board here with Chris Pies. Talking about jumping across disciplines, Jack. So Chris Pies, he is a resident racing lawyer down there in the great state of Texas. and he does a lot of WRL racing. You know about the WRL series in real life. Jack, have you actually ever raced a WRL race?
I have not. It looks like a blast, though.
Yeah, so Chris does a lot of that in his free time, so pretty cool to have him here racing on the World Tour too. Always a good mix of competitors that we get here on Roush Performance Esports. Doesn't matter if you're a sim racer, if you're a real racer, if you're an aspiring racer, you have a place right here on the Roush Performance Esports channel as we get Paul Slavonic leading that train down the hangar straight. This battle for second place still hasn't gone anywhere, and Josh Edmondson actually gets a little bit wide there through turns 16 and 17, but is able to put the power down quite nicely in that number 58 Nitro Circus Ferrari, keep Chris Walsh at an arm's length distance, and this is that beauty of that invert. Remember, Chris Walsh ran away with that 15-minute sprint race. Well, it's a totally different picture here. We've got David Shutt leading, Josh Edmondson second place, and now it's Chris Walsh giving the tow in third place, trying to catch up.
Yeah, so but Joey, given your experience with these GT3 cars, which car do you think is most dominant, or should be, should give people an advantage at this track?
I think that iRacing does a really good job of balance of performance. And Chris Pies, did you see that, Jack? He got kind of squeezed again from Stacy. So I don't think and these are the two cars that had a little bit of an incident earlier. You see Chris giving another big old sigh over here. I think that Chris Pies wants a little bit more space on the racetrack, and you know what it's like running up on some of these drivers, Jack. Some of them, they will fight you tooth and nail for every single inch on the racetrack. It doesn't matter if it's for eighth place or for a win. Kind of reminiscent of Ryan Newman.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, going up against a field of competitors, you will get, all different personality types. Some will run you off the road for, no real reason. Others will give you space and respect, but still race you hard. I'm seeing mostly clean driving here tonight, but yeah, definitely with a couple of these guys, I can see some tempers starting to flare a little bit.
Oh, and look at this battle. This is Zippy. Now I know it says Stanley Ipkiss, and side by side through the fastest section on the racetrack, and that is exactly what you were just talking about, Jack, is kind of the respect that's being given. Now, unfortunately, it looks like Mr. Ipkiss is missing the front end on his McLaren, but it is a battle between the Ford GT. That's Peachy Campos. That is a Roush family member, if you will. He's been around for a very long time in the IMSA series with Rolly Filgaris, and looks like Zippy is going to make that pass. Just a little bit of contact, and oh no, he spins around in that McLaren. Just the slightest bit of touch, and around goes Zippy. So unfortunate. And then this is Chris Pies still trying to get around the number 88 of Stacy Bertrand, and looks like we do officially have a driver change swap in the Jack Roush Jr. seat. JP, how's it going, dude?
Pretty good.
All right, I'll take it. So, if you were out here in these GT3 cars, JP, I gotta ask you, we highlighted all the different ones. We got Ferrari, we've got Porsche, we've got Lamborghini, McLaren, Ford, BMW, all of them. Which one do you think you would drive?
Based on my driving style, I think, well, with my sort of driving style in racing, the line I like to take is, not a super tight line. I like to start out way on the outside of the track, use the whole track and turn in a little later and hit the gas early. And, I'm okay with spinning the wheels a little bit. I'd say that probably, the Porsche GT3 car probably fits my driving style the best out of all of the 8 different cars on the field. Just because, it has a really good turn in radius and has a really good center of gravity, as I said, it really balances the weight well. and we work really well for the way I race around the track.
Well, we've got a couple different cars here. I'm actually really happy to see a Porsche being sandwiched by two of the Ford GTs right now, and that Porsche is none other than Corey Vervinkt, our resident iRacer out here. So he is trying to make his way around Peachy Campos. Now, Peachy, he is one of the throwbacks, if you will. He was the crew chief to Rolly Filgaris way back in the day, and then also helped him out in the Grand Am program. So always great to see Peachy Campos. I noticed we are missing Rolly out here tonight, so hopefully everything is all good in Rolly's life. Shout out to you, and hopefully we'll see you at the next esports event. But this is a really good battle here back for what is the 14th place on the racetrack. Currently, Peachy in that Ford GT has it. However, this is an interesting theme. JP, are you familiar with Rexy and that Porsche theme?
No, I'm not quite familiar with it.
So Corey has kind of a combo theme. So he's got the Martini livery, which is the blue and red stripe, which you traditionally see out of a Porsche. And then he's got the iRacing logo over it, which is a pretty cool play on words. And then he also has the teeth on the front. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with Rexy, Rexy is an actual IMSA car out there that competes, and he has the dinosaur teeth on the front end grille. So if we get the front end of this Porsche, JP, you'll see the big old teeth. It fits quite nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's it really can't mess it up at all because, you know, the grille on the Porsches is pretty small at the front. So if you put something there that's like that, you know, it fits in really well and kind of blends in like butter, you know.
It's just fun, right? And I think that's one of the cool parts. Now, JP, you do a lot of other stuff, not just iRacing, but you do a lot of Forza and other games. I think that's one of the coolest part is the customizable factor is that you don't only just have your car, but here in iRacing, you get to design your paint and all of that. And a lot of the other platforms, you get to even go further and customize everything down to the wheels, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, on Forza, I actually like to design a lot of different paint jobs. Like sometimes my friends will ask me to design paint jobs for them. And, you know, recently I made a paint job for a Porsche that was really interesting. And it wasn't quite like the Rex livery, but it had a bit of a similar sort of theme to it. So it kind of reminds me of stuff I've designed, which is kind of fun. Riding
on board with Sean Winkler here. JP, I agree with you, though. I think that's one of the cool parts about it is you really get to customize it and have your own stuff out there. And we were talking about Rexy. Well, Sean Winkler is rocking an actual Rexy scheme. So this is exactly what the car looks like over there in IMSA. So it's the green T-Rex, and he's even got the short, stubby little arms on the door. It is quite an amusing livery, and we're getting the shots from inside of Sean's sim rig as well. Sean back here in the 9th place position, holding off Oliver Turan in that Lamborghini right below him. And there were the shots of the little arms. JP, you know that the T-Rex, they've got the little arms.
Right.
Well, things are calming down just a little bit here. 13 minutes remaining in the race. Chris Pies, Stacy Bertrand, probably still our best battle on the racetrack, chasing down Paul Slavonic. So these are the 3 cars for the 6th place position. And really, before this one starts to heat up, I want to highlight one of our drivers, the number 659, Stanley Ipkiss. His name is Daniel Salmon. We know him by Zippy, actually. And Zippy is out here. I know that he was missing the hood on his McLaren earlier. He is chasing down Trent McMillan. And I'm really happy to have Zippy here on the channel. I think that he's raced a lot of these Formula cars and various other series, but I think that he would fit in perfectly here on the Roush Esports channel. And I think that he's having a terrific race despite having a lot of body damage out there with Trent McMillan. And JP, you know being a competitor, sometimes racing, it's about racing with somebody, because just going out there and turning laps, it can get pretty boring, can't it?
Yeah, sometimes I'll do something with my friends on a racetrack called sort of thing called like tandem, where we just are like right next to each other, you know, bump drafting, getting around people together, kind of working with each other. And sometimes I'll do that with people I've raced with for a while that I know, you know, kind of have an idea of how to do it and do it safely and get around people really well. And, you know, it's a big thing in racing is making the right friends, because you never know who you might need in the right situation.
And I think that's one of the cool parts about Roush Performance Esports. Oh no, looks like Trent McMillan just had a little bit of an off-course excursion there, so move Zippy up one of those positions. And we're going to highlight the number 528. Now, this is Paul Slavonic. He has been a part of the Roush Performance Esports channel for a very long time. He actually created the paints that we used in previous series, been around since the mini-series, World Tour, Endurance stuff. He's actually an author as well. So if you are interested, he's got a few motorsports novels. The first, Legacy Drive, it's available on audiobook as well as Amazon. So go out there, search for Legacy Drive, help out Paul Slavonic, listen to the words that he is putting down there on the paper. Then he also has another book that's coming out, and unfortunately just more contact on the racetrack between Bertrand and Pies. I don't think that's going to go over very nicely. And this is that second book that I was mentioning. I'll read it properly this time. Though I Fall. And that is the second coming of that series of books. So go check out Paul Slavonic, our resident author over here. Legacy Drive and Though I Fall. Great stories out there in the motorsports world.
Yeah, just to chime in on that, Legacy Drive is a great book. I had the chance to go read that myself, and man, it's a lot of fun. It was eerily familiar, you know, from my experience with racing and life around it. Definitely worthwhile.
I'm happy you pitched in there, Jack, because you've got firsthand experience. You were able to read it, and Paul's been with us for a long time on the esports channel, and I really feel like that's what this channel is about, is creating these relationships. When we first started this, it was all about giving everybody a place to race while everything was shut down, and now it's really more of a community to come and race these variety of different types of races.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, just one more thing on that book. So, one thing I found really interesting is the realism of, you know, like I mentioned, life outside of the track, but on the track, it's pretty astonishing the accuracy of, you know, racecraft. And obviously, Paul knows how to drive very well, and to find an author who also knows how to race and writes about racing, it's a really cool combination. Yeah, if you guys are interested in racing, and if you're watching this event, I would say, you know, there's a safe chance you are. Definitely check these books out. You'll definitely enjoy them.
And you mentioned the realism of the racing and the aspects that he talks about. He also does real-world racing now, not be it on the professional level, but he is dipping his toe in there. He's gotten into a Spec Miata recently. He's done one of the Roush SR1 cars, so he's down there in Texas as well, kind of along the same neck of the woods as Chris Pye. So even though that Paul Slavonic out here competing in the virtual world, also one of the real-world racers out there, I just think it's so cool to really help bridge that gap. And JP, I know that you're pretty young in terms of this topic, but Jack, while you're still here, we come from real world motorsports. That's really where our career, our professional racing career is. And then it was only in the last few years that we really have dove into this sim racing world. And it is so cool to bridge that gap literally between the real paddock and the virtual paddock.
Oh yeah, I've enjoyed it. Actually, funny story about iRacing for me. I started with iRacing back in 2006 when I first began racing in IMSA. Of course, back then it was called Grand Am. I never competed within iRacing. I used it strictly to learn tracks, which it's really good for. But, you know, when the pandemic hit, we were trying to figure out how to really raise people's spirits, you know, help entertain people, you know, during a really tough time for everyone. And yeah, I think, you know, the future of iRacing, I think it's a very bright one as far as, you know, our esports. It's a cool way of sharing motorsports with people, you know, the audience as well as the competitors. And it's the requirement for, you know, raising money is much lower than real cars, obviously. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I think what was super cool, Ryan Bauer just popped it up on the screen, Jack, is all of our racers that have logged in to the driver camera link. We were talking about hanging out. Now, I know that we are all in our own house, but this is the group here at Roush Performance Esports. Yeah, hey, Corey, we see you over there. Peace sign up to Corey Vervinkt. But this is what it's all about, coming out here, getting to know everybody, getting to know all of the racers, and giving everybody a place to go and race there. Get those competitive juices out there, let them flow, and see who is the fastest, and all have some smiles at the end of each one of these races. That's what it's all about, and I'm curious here. This is David Schutt. He's our leader. Remember, he was one of the fastest cars in race number 1, but he was nowhere near the podium. He started on pole. He's had clean air the whole time. He has actually grown the lead more than what Chris Walsh had over P2 in his checkered flag finish. Let's go ahead, as iRacing says, let's crank up the volume to full throttle, ride on board with David Schutt for a lap around Silverstone.
I was
Well, that is a lap around Silverstone in a Ferrari 296 with our leader, David Schutt. And we're going to jump back to the mask back here. This is Zippy Salmon. Unfortunately, he just got passed by Joe Nagy in the number 21. So Zippy still hanging on back here. Going to probably come home with a top 15 finish, and Joe Nagy in that Porsche moved up into 14th. We're going to take a quick run through the field, make sure we get everybody on the screen, get everybody's name out there. We've said David Schutt, our leader, out here in the black and yellow Ferrari. Really been dominant here in the feature. Chris Walsh in his white and blue Porsche. He won the sprint race just a short while ago. Then we have Josh Edmondson in that Nitro Circus Ferrari, the black and red number 58. was on the podium in the sprint race and also looking to be on the podium here in the feature. Cam Peterson, our fish out of dirt, another black and red Ferrari out there. Pretty sharp looking car with some silver on the side of it, running in 4th place. Kyle Gretsch in the blue Lamborghini. Got the nice white racing stripes. Oh, the old Jack, did you see what's on the side of that? The old sexy wall trip. What do you think about that one?
I'm not going to comment on that. I don't know what to say about that.
Then behind Kyle is Paul Slavonic in his Fuel Roush Esports themed McLaren, roasting the hot dogs all day long out there with those flames out of the back end. Christopher Pies actually looks like he got around Stacy Bertrand finally. So after a 30-minute battle with Stacy in that black and green number 88, it looks like Chris Pies has finally moved up around Stacy Bertrand in that black and green Porsche. Then comes the green-themed livery of Sean Winkler in that Rexy car. We were able to highlight Sean a little bit earlier with that fantastic IMSA tribute. Then we have Oliver Turan. We haven't mentioned Ollie too much back here. He's kind of had a little bit of a lonely race. He is in one of the Lamborghinis in the field, just a regular black carbon Lamborghini. Few more names as our leader is going to be coming around getting the white flag. Sean Fritz in the number 19, actually Mach 5 car, so a little bit different, but the white Mercedes, you know, we haven't seen many Mercedes out there, so thank you, Sean, for bringing out the other German make. I apologize we haven't gotten you more on the screen. And then Stephen Baker, I think this is the only BMW in the field, and Stephen is actually a good friend of mine out here in Washington. I know him personally. He always comes and does these Roush Esports events. A big sound engineer in the video game world over there at Studio Wildcard. So if you ever play those ARC games, he's responsible for all of the sound effects. Corey Vervinkt in the iRacing Martini Rexy. Well, what would you call that? A triple tribute theme over here for Corey, I guess, and currently in the 13th place. And then Joe Nagy behind him in 14th. Another Porsche out there in a black and green car, and just another few cars. Chris Papa, who we are getting the awesome onboard shots from this black and white one-speed Audi. That fantastic baseball hat webcam. Peachy Campos and Trenton McMillian are unfortunately the two Fords that are rounding up the final spots here on the World Tour 2. 17 cars still remaining as David Shutt is going to be rounding out of the final corner, taking the checkered flag here at the feature race, leading from pole position all the way through every single 16 laps and winning the entire dang thing. Chris Walsh going to be coming across the line in 2nd place. Josh Edmondson rounding out your podium there in 3rd. Jack, we're going to follow along with a couple more of these battles as the race winds out, but we're closing night number 1 here. What did you feel about the overall vibe?
It was a great race. You know, there's some chaos. You know, I could see a little bit of tension out there, but you know, overall, you know, I thought it was, you know, really good sportsmanship, really clean racing. Yeah, I think it was a successful race at Silverstone.
It's pretty cool to go to all these different tracks that we haven't visited, especially on the Roush Performance Esports channel, as we get the rest of the cars crossing that start-finish line. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break and be right back with the drivers that finish on the podium here. So stick around, and if you have any questions for them, drop them in chat. We will ask them.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Well, we just wrapped up the main race here for the World Tour 2. It all was David Shutt out front. He had that grid invert of the 8th place position, so he started on pole. He led every single lap, and when he had the clean air, he pretty much put up the Tyreek Hill peace sign and said, I am out of here. Chris Walsh with a very dominating night, though. Remember, he won our sprint race and then finished second in the 30-minute feature. Josh Edmondson also with another very successful night, second in the sprint and then third in the feature, so a double podium there for Josh. Cam Peterson finishing in fourth. Paul Slavonic with a top 5 finish in his McLaren. Kyle Gretsch is going to be your first Lamborghini to finish in 6th. Chris Pies comes out on top of that battle with Stacy Bertrand after 30 minutes. Talk about a street fight between Christopher and Stacy. Sean Winkler in 9th. Oliver Turan finishing in 10th, Jack.
And in 11th was Sean Fritz. 12th, Stephen Baker. 13th, Corey Vervinkt. 14th, Joe Nagy. 15th, Chris Papa. 16th, Ichi Campos. In 17th was Trenton McMillian. In 18th, S. Ipkiss. In 19th, Michael Della Sala. In 20th, David Levine. In 21st, Timothy George. And in 22nd, Ben Harcum.
Well, it looks like we're going to be joined by Chris Walsh, who's sitting in our commentary booth with us. He finished second tonight in the feature and won the sprint race. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here on the Roush Performance Esports channel. What did you think of the first event of the World Tour 2?
It was good. I mean, good racing. I mean, everyone seems to be pretty clean and quick enough that it's really good racing. So that the inverted thing, I haven't done that too often, so it's a little frustrating. It was a tough track to pass at. So I was trying to find my feet there and not be too aggressive and punt anybody. But yeah, it was imperative I got through pretty quick to catch up to the Dave in front. So yeah.
Jack and I were talking about that before the race because you won the sprint. You had to start way back there in 8th, and we noticed you kind of got choked up there on that initial start. What was going through your head, kind of weighing the aggressiveness versus the patience?
Yeah, I mean, the start, someone just missed. I actually had this happen in a real race at Indy a week ago, but missed kind of the acceleration time, and I was just trying to find a lane to get into. It actually worked out. I think I made up a few spots, but I was like, it's pretty tight. There's cars everywhere. And then, once you got into the rhythm, it was just hard to find the right corner to carry the speed out of to attack on the brakes when I got kind of held up behind Josh for a bit. And that gave Dave a good gap, and I never could really bring it back down.
Chris, I know you are a real world racer. You compete over there in SRO World Challenge. Talk to the people here. Where can they find you? How can they follow you? And where are you going to be racing next?
Yeah, mostly I'm just kind of Instagram is the only thing I'm really active on. Walsh.usa is my handle, but yeah, just trying to figure out what next year looks like. I got a taste in the Carrera Cup series there at the end of the year at Indy, so I'm looking to maybe stay in that car because it's a lot of fun. And but there's also possible, some more GT4 America and SRO. So we'll kind of see what shakes out in the off season here.
Well, thank you very much for coming and racing tonight. And is there anybody you want to thank before I let you go?
Thanks to my wife who watches the kids while I do this stuff, and you guys putting on a broadcast. Like I said, running over in POC and hearing your wonderful voices again. It's good to be back and competing with y'all.
Well, thank you, Chris, for coming out, and congratulations on that sprint win and the second place in the feature.
Thank you.
All right, and it looks like we actually have our next interviewer in here. Josh Edmondson is being joined by Jack Roush Jr. Josh finished third here in the feature. Jack?
Hey, Josh. Great job tonight. How was the racing out there?
Oh, it was a ton of fun. It's a little bit new to me. I don't do a ton of road racing on iRacing, so mixing it up like this is actually a blast. I'm actually stoked to be up front. Didn't have anything for Chris or David, but to be up there was cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, very impressive. I know how different it is racing, these different disciplines, and to do so well across multiple, great job, man.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I got a lot to learn though. Chris, man, he's super fast, and David pulled away early too. Those guys were on it today, but I was starting to figure it out. I was trying to save the tires a little bit, and I think that helped me towards the end of the race. It was running consistent pace, so yeah, there's still a lot to learn, but I'm having fun with it. I'm looking forward to the next rounds for sure.
Well, sounds great. Is there anyone that you'd like to thank tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out you guys for putting on the race and broadcast, and go watch that back. And everybody on our team, Nitro Circus Sim Racing, Next Level Racing, Pimax VR, Apex Gaming PCs, and Racecraft.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks again, Josh. And again, great job.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
That was Josh Edmondson, and I did misspeak earlier. Cam Peterson, his teammate, was the one who got the podium in the sprint race. Josh was the one who got the podium here in the feature race, and we're actually going to bring in a couple more people here. Stacy Bertrand is going to be joining us in the interview room as well. Stacy, you were locked in a battle with Chris Pies for 30 minutes. How was it?
Are you kidding me? Well, did you see that? Oh,
yes, I did see that Chris got a little bit frustrated, maybe once or twice, and there was some contact between you. But I am happy to be having you here on the esports channel and representing in the road racing community here.
That's right. Yeah, I normally do a lot of road racing, and I run with Rockefeller Racing Team. Huge team, and we do a lot of stuff, a lot of different events, a lot of different organizations like the North American Racing League. We do that. And yeah, I was representing the GT3 people, but my God, I had like a target on my back or something, because it just seemed like everywhere I turned, someone was trying to dive bomb in me or grab an inch, or it's like, whoa, man. Okay, I'm just trying to turn some laps and get those 2-on-1s, and wow, it was crazy.
They can get pretty aggressive out there, definitely. Stacy, thank you so much for joining us here on the World Tour 2. Are we going to see you the rest of the series?
Oh yeah, I should be able to make all the other events. Looking forward to it. Maybe I should paint the car different so people can't find me. I don't know. I gotta do something different, because oh my God, the target was huge.
You know what? While Jack is still in here, maybe you should run the distractor face, because something that Jack used to run on the back of one of his race cars was the most distracting face that he could put on the back there. So hopefully it would just distract everybody behind into their own mistakes, not into you.
Yeah, well, it can throw you sideways if people want to start hitting the distractor face. So I don't know that I'd recommend that one.
Oh man, Jack, I might have to do something like that. I tell you, it's wild out there. Hopefully it was a good fun thing to watch though, because it was fun and stressful, and I had to really do a lot of car control out there just to keep the slides from becoming a major crash, and then I'd be totally out of it. So I was sliding and out of control, being bumped, but I recovered and didn't hit anything, and so I was like, whew.
Well, Stacy, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you at round number 2.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
And we're actually just going to have a couple more really quick interviews here. I wanted to talk with Chris because we didn't get to talk with him at the end of the Roush Rallycross event, and I'm not sure if he's still on camera or not, but Chris Papa, you have one of the coolest webcams I have ever seen in my life. We got you on mic here, Chris? Oh, yeah, I see him messing with the Discord settings. This is classic Discord right here. The voice and video always loves to swap around on you. Chris, we got a mic check on you. No,
Nope. I think
do we have you there for a second? Let's let him go one more time here on this voice and video. Let's see if we got him. Yes, Chris. Now we've got you. Classic Discord move there. But let me ask you, how cool is this streaming setup, and do you have a lot of followers because of it, or did you think of this on your own? How did it come about?
Actually, I don't stream. I just do this for events such as this, where there's kind of like an in-car camera. There's a broadcast going on, and I want to provide the broadcast an alternative view. And I think streaming is kind of silly from just watching somebody else's screen. So I figured with my triples, this gives the viewer an opportunity to see a far more panoramic view of what I see. You can see my dashboard, see my hands on the wheel, just more immersive.
Yeah,
Well,
it really gives a visceral feel of what you're doing there in the sim.
It's a shame that I'm so terrible at road course racing, though, because this was probably a terrible view for you guys watching me run on the back the entire time.
Oh, we loved it, Chris. Thank you so much for racing with us here on Roush Performance Esports, and we will see you at round number 2.
I will be there. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, Chris. And then the last final one, really, really fast. I'm going to let Jack interview him because he knows him personally. Paul Slavonic is joining us. Jack.
Hey, Paul. How's it going, man?
Going well, Jack. How are you?
Good. How was your race?
Oh, the first one was good. I kind of, I don't know, wet the bed a little bit on the second one, and I totally just missed the start. I'm a little tired, running a little bit on empty today, so totally my fault. Missed the start. Had to start from the pits, but it was fun. Just kind of charging through the field again for the main race, and finished up in 5th, so I can't complain too much. But I don't imagine I would have gotten much higher. There's some really fast drivers out there today.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. It looked like it was a pretty stacked field out there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, even just the guys I got to race with, Chris and Stacy, they're fast. I mean, just having a good battle with them and trying to keep it clean and everything. It's a tough track to do that on. There's a lot of places to have off tracks at Silverstone, but you kind of just have to make the most of it. Just deal the cards or use the cards that you're dealt and everything.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hey, I gotta ask you, what do you think of the McLaren out there compared to the other cars?
I see a lot of people have a lot of hate for the McLaren because it's not really updated and it's a much older model. I think it was iRacing's first GT3 model. But I love it. It's got a lot of character to it. It sounds good. No other car shoots flames out the back. And it just kind of suits my driving style. I really appreciate the fact that they've updated the physics and everything, because it used to be borderline undrivable, but now it's at least from my perspective, it can keep up with the best of them. I'm looking forward to when they can add the new McLaren model in there. I think it'll be a really cool addition if and when that happens. But for now, I'm just kind of enjoying the old school. What is it? The MP4 12C something GT3. I think I remember all the letters.
Right. No, you looked fast out there. It looked like you may have had a little bit of a nice amount of power on the straightaways. And yeah, I mean, again, great job out there, Paul.
Thank you. And that is one thing. I don't know how it does it, but it is pretty dang quick on the straightaways. So that is one cool plus about it. I think it's the afterburners coming out the back. It give me a little bit. It's like putting stickers on it on your car. It gives you a little bit extra horsepower.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we have graphics of your 2 books, the new book, Though I Fall, and the first book in the series, Legacy Drive. Would you like to talk about those?
Yeah, Legacy Drive is it's kind of just I want to call it more than a passion project. It's really an important story for me. It's going to eventually be a trilogy, but it's a fictional motorsport story that I've been working on for almost 10 years now. But it follows a fictional character through a fictional character who really is a part of a motorsport legacy, who has a father who's a Australian touring car champion, and he races the son that the book is about, Bill Watson. He races TA2 cars in the United States, and he eventually kind of finds himself in the shadow of his father's legacy, and it almost takes him all the way back to Australia, actually, with the Supercar series. The second book that's coming out probably the early next year. There's a little bit of a delay with that one. It's going to pick up with the main character's son from the first book. It's going to be about him and the trials he's going to face along the way. So it's a very personal story, it is definitely a motorsport story, but it is very much a human story about the trials and tribulations that we all go through, and also too just what race car drivers go through too. Like they're, believe it or not, they're human too. They face just as much, if sometimes even more, of the struggles that we all face just because of the pressure that they're put under.
Oh, absolutely. And Paul, I've read your first book. I really enjoyed it and recommend it to everyone out there.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad you got to read it, got to enjoy it. We got to teach Joey to read one day, so he can enjoy it as well.
I got it right this time.
You did. See, I'm going to make a Joey Atterbury edition of the second book. It's going to be called I Fall Through.
There you go.
And it's going to be a ballad of Joey Atterbury. There we go.
Oh, gosh. Well, real fast, Paul, where can everybody get a hold of your stuff?
It's on Amazon and also any online bookstore, or pretty much, I think it is actually around the globe. So wherever books are sold online, you can find a copy of Legacy Drive, but Amazon's the easiest.
Well, Paul, thank you very much for joining us here for the first round. We'll see you at round number 2.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
That is going to do it here. Thanks to Roush Performance and VRS for all of their support, as well as the entire team behind the scenes today. That includes Jack, Trevor, and Ryan. Follow along the Roush Performance Esports Facebook and Discord pages to stay up to date with all of our future events. Round 1 of the World Tour 2 is now complete. It's going to do it here for us on Roush Performance Esports. Catch us right here in the same spot 2 weeks from today for round number 2 in Spain. That's Motorland Aragon. Have a great evening, and as always, we'll see you at the checkered flag.